There is a fifth dimension.
A dimension of sound.
Damn it, Frank! We tell him to be quiet. I spilled my hot cup of Uranus again.
A dimension of sight.
Hey, Arch. I'm gonna sock you in the puss.
A dimension of mind.
Nan Adams, is that you?
Next stop, the Twilight Zone.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Fifth Dimension of Twilight Zone podcast. I am, of course, your non-wavy host, Nick. We're, of course, here to talk the Twilight Zone, Rod Serling's famous podcast. But before we do, we are an audio feeds like Anchor and SoundCloud. What's that?
His famous podcast?
Yes, his famous podcast. His famous
I mean, the
old
eye
podcast.
behind you is actually Rod Serling's actual eye. We call him Jeff, but it's actually Rod Serling's right eye.
Yeah, you've heard about Walt Disney's frozen head. We have Rod Serling's eye.
Frozen eye.
Yeah, frozen eye that blinks every once in a while. No, but we'll talk about Rod Serling's famous TV show that he created just for our pleasure and nobody else's. No, before we get started, we're on audio feeds, Anchor, SoundCloud, Audio Boom. It was iTunes, Google, Cups of Uranus. If you listen on podcast feeds, please rate, subscribe. We really need your help, because we are sad pandas, and we are old, and we need to kick the can. So there you go.
Oh, you want to know a fun thing about this episode? It also the kick the can thing is also a reference to kicking the bucket.
That made it even more depressing. Thanks, Drew.
You're welcome. Oh, suck it up, Cupcake.
No,
Find
your
childish magic.
I have no childish magic. I live in Florida. There's no childish magic down here.
You're also 84 years old, so.
This is true. This is very true. So anyways, how you guys doing? I'm here with Triv and Jacob, as usual. How you guys feeling?
I'm no longer corn.
Oh my god. Oh my god. That's horrifying. Now I have like weird eyes staring back at me.
Oof. Okay, Jake, blink only when Jeff blinks.
Maybe I randomized it.
Oh god.
The randomized eyes. Oh my god, it's terrifying.
Dry eyes.
I can disappear.
Let's make one of them.
Into the Twilight Zone.
Will it do it? Let's see if it does it. Blink, damn it. Oh, well.
Nice.
I guess I can't outside. I guess
This is quality audio right now.
Absolutely.
Waiting for Jacob to make the eye appear. The blink.
Anyway.
Yes. We have fun on this podcast, whether we believe it or not. I blame Triv for the fun. If it were not for Triv, it'd just be me and Jacob talking about
okay, if you got yourself a decent ass episode and not Dead Man's Shoes, you'd have a shit ton to talk about and you wouldn't miss me.
Well, I'm still waiting for that decent episode of Twilight Zone. Have we had it yet, Jacob?
Oh my god, really?
No, I'm kidding.
I mean, I can cut out. This episode is pretty good.
Yeah, it's quite the episode. No, it's considered a classic episode of the Twilight Zone. It's an episode that is quite different than the Steven Spielberg adaptation in a sense.
Thank God.
In the Twilight Zone movie, which is as saccharine and boring as you can get. How do you make a movie? How do you make a thing with Scatman Crothers so kind of dreary and boring? Can anyone explain?
Because he wasn't in the whole episode. He was only in bits of it.
No, he was like literally in the whole episode.
A lot of it.
It wasn't in the whole thing. He wasn't in every single shot, so it can't be good.
I don't know. It's weird. It's weird, Triv. It's weird.
So am I.
Anyways, yeah. So with that said, if you don't know what we're talking about, we are talking about season 3, episode 21, titled "Kick the Can," directed by Lamont Johnson, written by George Clayton Johnson, starring Ernest, Truex, Barry Truex, Russell Collins, John Marley, Burt Mustin, and Earle Hodgins, plus a bunch of other people. Once again,
that's what the credits should say.
There's so many people in this. Yeah, there's just so many people in the background of this episode. It's just like I love how they place each individual person. Like it's like a camera dolly shot pan of just people in like synchronicity or whatever you want to call it. I don't know. This episode is considered a classic in the Twilight Zone canon. It's an episode that is.
Sure about that? Are you sure about that?
I mean, for most people, it would be considered a classic. I don't know where Pace Magazine or has it, but
Taste Magazine
Apparently
has it at 30.
Oh, okay, so yes, a classic. Is this a perchance a dream situation, Jacob? Am I gonna have to be
No.
convinced this is a good episode? And
No,
you're gonna be
no.
like, this episode
Really?
sucks.
No,
Jesus.
it's not a perchance to dream of it. No, 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 no.
Well, there's no dream sequence with a cat lady, so that makes it a not perchance to dream episode.
Yeah.
Meow.
Oh, by the way, production code 4821, air date February 9th, 1962, right before Valentine's Day. Hooray.
Appropriate or something, I guess. Maybe.
Sure. Old people.
Yeah, it is. Old people got
wanna
love.
hate-
There wasn't any loving. I mean, there kind of was between the two guys, but it was
Lemon
kind of
party.
You would like that, wouldn't you, Jacob? That would make this
You
episode
know what-
a whole
you know
much
what
more
this-
interesting.
You know what they didn't get into in this episode was the whole loofah thing that they do in Florida.
The what?
At the villages in Florida, apparently at the villages in
Nick,
Florida.
what you doing down there?
The world's most senior citizen STD area.
Well, so
What?
they ride around in golf cars, and they have different loofahs on the backs of their cars, or pool noodles, depending on who it is. But the color of the loofah or pool noodle tells other people that do what you do how much you are up for different sexual acts. So if you like watching,
Jacob,
it's one color.
I'm telling you, Jacob, there is a place called The Villages down here. Jacob's taking notes, which literally has the world's it's the world's most senior STD place in the world.
There's
Man.
lamb for sale there.
Yeah, it's extremely expensive.
Well, you just need to build your
Villages,
next
Florida's
pleasure emporium there.
Friendliest active
Yeah.
adult 55.
Yeah, it's in I think it's near
I'm
Lakeland
gonna
or something
click
like
on
that.
images and see what I get. It does look nice. I mean, it looks nice. I don't see anything.
No, you gotta, if you look up the villages like loofahs, you'll get the
Loofah?
whole story. Yeah.
Oh, the Villages Florida loofah color code.
Yes.
That's what I need. It's on their golf carts. Wow. There's
Yep.
so many more. It's like loofahs and noodles and twisted sponges. And what are those? Braided wigs? What towel? Oh my god.
Yeah, there's definitely no bangable people in this particular episode.
Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna say there.
I mean, there is one
This
guy with
chick
like the
Maybe she's
I mean, there is one guy in this that looks like he has like the worst makeup job ever, but he's walking across the screen. Do you notice that?
I
didn't catch it.
maybe I
No,
can't say I
he
did.
had the cane as he's walking across the screen. He looked
Yeah,
like he had
he's
like the
off
worst
the
makeup job.
Oh, this car's got all the loofahs. All right, I closed it.
That's gonna be Jacob's porn name is all the loofahs.
Me Al Loofah.
Yeah.
So yeah, kick the can.
Yes.
So this episode is something. It's an
Loofah
episode
field.
that is it's supposed to be very saccharine and sweet, but comes off quite depressing, especially in the end. And I don't know how I feel about that, to be honest. I'll be honest with you. This is my honest truth. I've never really honestly liked this episode. Not that it's a bad episode. I feel like it has all this like great buildup and great setup, and then it has this like, and this is I guess this is kind of the same way with the last episode or with the movie, where the ending just kind of completely falls under the weight of like this premise. And I okay, first of all, Ben, as we'll learn, is a very curmudgeon individual. He, as Steve Martin says in The Jerk, he hates these cans for whatever reason. And it just like the idea. Okay, I understand homes and old people homes, it's like that. Whatever it's called. I know they're very depressing. I know family members will not see them. But when you have a story like this and you have somebody who's like wants to be youthful and outgoing, and it just this one guy just like it's
He
so
shits
depressing.
all over everything.
Yeah, it feels like what I'm gonna be like when I'm 80 years old or 70 years old. It just I don't know. I feel like that there's something about this story that people really like, and I think it's the idea of like, you know, people in their old, as we get older, we're all, you know, at that age where we're starting to go past the hill or whatever, or we're getting to that point, and we start like seeing things in a different light. We start becoming curmudgeons and old people. Not saying we don't have fun, because, you know, Jacob, you do your video game retro videos, which you find fun and entertaining. I do movie reviews.
Call me
Jeff, you
old?
do your
What?
we're all old. We're all old. I'm just saying we are getting to that age where we may end up being like these people where we're sitting in a chair going, "Damn, kids on the lawn, get off my lawn" situation. And I don't know. I feel like this episode has an interesting concept, which the Twilight Zone could do. I just think the payoff is really weak. That's just where I lead. So
I like the sentiment of this episode. I like what it has to say. That I did like, and I didn't dislike this episode, but I do feel as if I'm kind of on board with you, Nick, that this is and I knew going into it, I remember this episode and I remember the movie and all that. I knew what was going to happen. I knew what it was about. I don't think the payoff was all that. First of all, it wasn't all that surprising, and secondly, it just wasn't as rewarding as I wanted it to be. But I still liked what the episode had to say, pretty much saying, you're only as old as you feel, if you will. Getting old doesn't mean you have to just hang up the spurs, if you will, and fade off into the darkness and die. You can still get up and have fun and be quote unquote young. So I did like all that. I just, as far as execution wise, like watching the episode, I won't say I was bored. I was just kind of like, yeah, that's sweet, but that's about it. I mean, did they call it a classic? I don't know if I would call it a classic, but who am I?
I mean, Nan Adams is a dick to her grandfather in this, so I don't know what her problem was, but
I will say this about this episode, and there was one line in particular where, like, all of the old folks are together, and they talk specifically about like what they played as a kid and how they couldn't play it now because they can't run because they're stiff and old and muscles are bad and bones are weak and all the rest. But the main character says, hey, we're all kind of handicapped by this. We don't have to run fast, but we can still enjoy and do and making the most of every day. And I love that line. Like, it really encompasses what this is. And I will fully admit that this isn't perfect by any stretch, but I did appreciate and you guys kind of talked about it. Yeah, exactly. The fact that it's not even about, acting, being as young as you feel, but it's about making the most of every day, not just sitting back and
you don't have to give in to age.
Right.
You don't have, just because you're old doesn't mean life is over. And I like them. I'm with you. The message. That's what I was looking for. I did enjoy the message of the episode, and I do really like that. There was a part closer to the beginning where I think it was the main character, Ernest. Wasn't that the main character? The main guy?
Ernest?
Was that? No, wait, Charles.
No, he was scared stupid.
It was not David.
Ben.
Was Ben the main guy?
Ben was the curmudgeonly guy. Charles was
Charles.
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 Yeah.
Well, when he it's him, right? He gets in the car. I guess it's his son or something like that.
Yeah, it's his son. Real life son too.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So it's like, I don't have time for you, son of a bitch.
Well, he's just like,
my car.
I didn't tell you. I said I was coming. I didn't say I was coming to pick you up and take you. And like,
I just
like how he
doesn't even. He doesn't even come into he just drops his grandfather off. He's like, I'm bye. Like, what?
Well, I think that maybe it was supposed to be some passage of time or something. I assume. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I just thought the defeat, the utter defeat and just sadness in Charles, I thought that was really that showed something. That was really good how they did that. Is how he was like all excited that, hey, I'm leaving, and having dealt with an elderly parent and seeing, especially when like memory comes into it and they remember things differently or things like that, and then seeing things like that happen where they think something's going on and then you have to let them in on no, this is what's happening, and then just the kind of disappointment and defeat in their eyes. Yeah, so I that hit me. I felt what Charles was feeling then.
Oh yeah. Well, my mom worked at a nursing home for a long time, and you see a lot of that where you have older folks that they don't necessarily have someone to visit them or whatever it might be, and that loneliness that comes across it. I mean, and you can see it happens then, it happens now. There's that desperation of loneliness and everything, and it's that need to you only really have the past at that point. Like, you don't have what's ahead. So I can see how easy it would be to fall into that, like where Ben is, where it's, well, I'm, it's in this moment, this is pissing me off, fuck everything. Whereas, Charles kind of takes the once he gets past that initial like the defeat and the heartbreak,
Yeah. He decides, I'm not gonna. This isn't good. This is what I want.
right.
Life does not
Well,
end just over here.
let me ask you guys this question before we get into the real question of the hour. Do you think it takes too long to get to the kids portion of the episode, like the young kid when they turn into young kids? Because it only happens like 5 minutes before the episode ends.
It's not even that.
And I'm like, I what's that?
I don't even know what you
it's
would
like,
do though.
Yeah, I mean, like it happens
Well-
and then it ends. It happens, and I mean, I guess they go outside, but to the part where we see them as children and we realize that hey, they've become kids. If you hadn't already
But
seen it, that literally
you-
happens. There's that realization, and then it ends.
Yeah, but do you guys have a problem with that at all, or do you find it weird that it does it? Like, do you
Didn't the
think
movie do it
they should
differently?
revert it back to old people?
The
and
movie,
just kinda have that
they
magic?
were.
They
See,
played
I
it a little
don't. I
lesser,
don't.
didn't
See, I didn't. I don't know. I preferred this ending. Like it kind of leaves it open ended. The fact that the kids go off, and I think that the movie ending is more realistic because you would have that. It's not just you can run off into the woods and live happily ever after. If you're alive, you still have to eat. You still have to have shelter. Who's going to take care of you and all that stuff? But for the
don't
Twilight
they revert
Zone,
back? Don't they in the movie? Did they
No.
in the
revert?
movie they
in
do.
the movie they do. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
that's-
just
yeah,
feels
the movie
weird
they
that they
revert
just like run off and then Rod's like does his whole spiel at the end. And I just thought that was kind of weird. So like it almost feels like there was supposed to be like another 10 minutes they had to cut out, and they're just like, we'll have old man Ben just sit off on the side like he's ready to die or
Didn't
some
he
shit.
get? He got to turn too in the movie, didn't he?
No.
No,
Oh,
Did he not?
he goes to sit on the porch with the can. He's like, oh, don't worry about finding them. You won't find them.
Okay. In the movie, because in the movie, didn't they turn more than once? It's been a long time since I've seen it.
No,
Or
they
did
only
just
turn
like this?
once, but
Okay.
one of them stays young and then leaves. The rest they're just like playing kick the can at the end of that movie.
as older folks, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
As
look at
Captain
it like
Crothers
this.
goes and invades another restless home like a block down the road. We gotta talk about that. At the end of that portion of the movie, he walks like three blocks down the road. Is there like is this like a port like the Tampa Bay, strip club row of like homeless or
Homeless
shelters or whatever, of, like retirement
homes for the aged.
Yes.
Yeah, like the strip club of homes for the aged. No joke. There's a road in Tampa that is nothing that leads up to the stadium for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's nothing but strip clubs. It's like famous in the world.
Oh
or famous
my
in the
God.
country.
An address? Can I get a GPS on that?
Dude, you could literally get there like just by drive. There's a sign. I can't remember what road it is, but there's a strip club that looks like
It's called Virgin Street.
I don't know about Virgin Street. Like about 20 minutes down the road, there's like one of the world's famous bar districts. The real question of all this, the one that we have to discuss and digest and dissect and talk about,
That
what
strip
the
club?
hell is Rod Serling doing in the bushes?
Oh.
And why
That's a
did he
good
have a pair of
question.
binoculars?
Well, he might be on a list nowadays.
Yeah.
Where
No,
are
Also-
like,
the
all honestly, I
Where are the
had to
children?
bring that up. He's like George
did-
McFly, like staring into the old folks' home. He's like, "Oh, wearing the panties." Ooh.
What kind of
Did you
loofah do
also-
you have?
Did you also notice that when the kids show up and they're playing on the front lawn, and they're the
Yes, he said. Yes, Clint
he
Eastwood
says-
was there.
he says kids are drawn to grass.
It's a drawn to
I mean, it
grass.
was the '60s, Triv. It was the '60s,
Yeah,
so you
it's
never
true.
know.
That's true.
Yeah.
So back to Rod Serling and his creepiness coming out of the bushes. What does Rod Serling when he's like when they're writing these stories, he's like, I need you to put me in a very precarious situation. This time, just put me in the bushes somewhere. It's like he's like in the lot somewhere, and they're like, he's like, where's Waldo of like the Twilight Zone? Like, where's Rod Serling?
He just showed they're just filming the episode, and whenever he shows up, they're like, "All right, throw him in there."
Yeah, get the man a couple of Chesterfields.
Get the
Oh,
bushes ready.
he's doing like that meme from the Descendants with George Clooney looking over the hill, or Spaghetti from Tim and Eric, where he's like looking down
Rod's
the bushes.
here. He's going headlong into the bushes over there. To the
He
bush.
likes grass too.
I
cool,
mean,
man.
yeah, was the '60s. Anyways, so
Oh,
yeah, I
that's
had to
Ralph.
bring that up. Yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. Rod Serling comes out of the bushes and does his spiel. Jacob, see, I told you I wouldn't forget. At least I don't. This
We've
time.
talked about most of the episode, but here we go. Rod pops out of the bush and says, "Sunnyvale Rest, a home for the aged, aged, AGED. Would that be aged or aged?
Aged.
Aged? Okay.
I
we'll
think
go
in
with-
this case it's supposed to be aged.
Yeah. Is that how you spell aged?
Mr. Aegis. Mr.
Hey,
Aegis.
I guess so. A home for the aged, a dying place, and a common children's game called Kick the Can that will shortly become a refuge for a man who knows he will die in this world if he doesn't escape into the Twilight Zone.
So okay, so we pinpointed some things in this episode.
That I don't know
You
how
have
to
to
spell.
die if you don't go in the Twilight Zone, you die. You have to play Kick the Can. You have to escape this world. You have to play common children's games, and if you don't, you die in a home for the aged.
The aged.
Is that how this works?
Yes.
That I pinpoint this episode's main thrust. If you don't go in the Twilight Zone, you die.
I like thrusts. Yes.
Yes. Thrust it in like a good
Like Rod
line.
and that bush. Thrust him into the bush.
Oh, good lord.
Anyway, old people.
Old
Thrust in
people
bushes.
and loofahs and rods and bushes. So
Good lord.
Somebody save us.
okay, so this thrust of this story is
The thrust of this story? Okay.
two old men, one named Ben, one named Charles. Charles is a happy-go-lucky guy. Ben just hates these cans, hates people, hates life. I think he's curmudgeon. He's Mr. Wilson. I don't know what to say, but he is a guy who likes nothing. He just wants to be old. He wants to go to sleep. He doesn't want to be like Uncle Joe or Grandpa Joe. And yeah, I mean they talk, and Charles is like, we need to have fun, and we need to be spirited, and we need to it's in our blood, and old man hates these cans, and everybody should be young. And I don't know, what do you guys think about this stuff? A lot of it's just too old. A lot of it's grumpy old men, basically, or
It
grumpy
is,
old
but
people.
I guess I and I know that I'm in the minority on this one, but I do like these episodes are kind of my jam, as I've talked about in the past. I don't know. It's not perfect by any stretch, but I do appreciate like what they're aiming for, because I mean, even now, and I don't know about you guys, but you have those moments where it's like, well, shit, I can't do this the way I used to, or whatever it might be, and perceptions change of things as they do across any set of ages. But I do think that it has, in its own simple way, it does talk a lot about, what it's like to get old, and kind of facing those fears and all that stuff.
I didn't have, like I said, I liked that part of the story. I liked what the story had to say. I just thought it kind of plodded along.
You're
like
right.
an old man.
But we talked about this in the past too. Like with a lot of these stories, there's not necessarily 24 minutes of actual story. It could be, because yeah, I mean, there was a good chunk of that first bit that probably should have been cut or trimmed down or whatever.
Like I said, bring the kids in earlier. Like you
I
gotta
don't
spend
think
more
you
time
want
with
to
the
do
kids.
that though.
I do think you want to do that.
Why?
I think
You do that and you end up with
why-
the movie.
Yeah.
But I think the problem with the movie is it's just too much Spielberg. Like there's too much Spielberg in that movie, and it doesn't work for Twilight Zone. I know Spielberg's a famous director, but his stories, when he deals, you can look at like AR, artificial intelligence, when it deals with that young kid android robot. Or you can look at, he works with kids well, but it's just like when you deal with the Twilight Zone, there's a whole different feel and kind of rhythm to it that Spielberg never got with his adaptation. And here you can have the kids in there, but it just like the old people, there's too much of it. There's too much like thrown in there of just Ben and Charles just back and forth, just like one's grumpy and then they, I don't know. That's why I had a problem with it.
Didn't the movie use the Poltergeist theme too?
Maybe.
I think the whole thing used the Poltergeist theme.
Too much Poltergeist, maybe. I don't know. I just
They
remember
did-
that. I remember that one.
I mean, it was Jerry Goldsmith, so
They also
Jerry
did
Goldsmith did
use
Poltergeist.
bits of the Walking Distance theme, or the score from Walking Distance, throughout this as well.
See, and that's a perfect example of a old curmudgeon guy that goes back to his youth, and that maybe not as a kid, but goes back to his youth, like hometown. That's what this episode needed. It needed like more of the young kids, them as young kids, and then like they transfer back, and like maybe there's like at the end you transfer like to being a kid for full time or whatever. But it's just a lot of like depressing, sad, like trying to be like a very humanistic approach to like a world that just it needs. I don't know. It just feels like like there's no life until the very end of the episode.
Well,
And
I
I know
think
it's
this-
about old people,
No,
but I'm just saying.
absolutely. I think to some extent though, like, because like Charles doesn't know, like he knows he needs the can, he knows he believes in this magic, but trying to figure out like in what way, he's trying, like, I guess what you would consider like the quote normal ways, trying to act younger, trying to do the things that made him happy as a kid. Whether it was like running through the sprinklers or, like keeping a younger attitude. And it wasn't working because they weren't doing the thing that they needed to do to make them young, which was actually playing the game.
I mean, maybe him running through the sprinkler turned him young, like to a kid or something like that. I don't know. It's like a lot of just like remembering stuff. It's like, trying to do Cocoon. I don't know.
I understand
really...
what you're saying. I don't think you, first off, for the time and place, I don't think you would have gotten okay, they turn into kids and then they turn back into adults. I think that...
Are you saying people in the 60s are dumb, Triv? Is that what you're saying?
No, I just think that
they've
done that with quite a few other episodes.
The horror.
Oh God,
No,
screw you.
No, I'm kidding. No, I do have. No, I mean, you're not wrong. Like I said, this is an episode that honestly just didn't hit me in the way it does for you. And like I said, that there are episodes like that, but I feel like there could have been more oomph to the quality of what they're writing. And that's
if they had any more oomph, they would have broken a hip.
Probably. I mean, that probably been interesting.
It's like the villages in Florida. They got to be careful this way. It's staring directly into my soul.
It's funny because this is written by the guy who wrote the story to Ocean's 11, like the original novelization
nice.
in Logan's Run.
I love Logan's Run.
He wrote the script. He also wrote Twilight Zone episodes The Four of Us Are Dying, Execution,
Oh shit.
A Penny for Your Thoughts, The Prime Mover, A Game of Pool. He did write Nothing in the Dark, and then 90 Years of Slumbering. I don't know. I mean, I do got a sexicon word we used to chase for pollywogs.
Pollywogs?
You also have frog, like little frog, like tadpoles, I think.
I had Pollywog Stew from the Beastie Boys.
Nice. There's also, and it's I've not, I guess I've heard it a couple of times, but they refer to, I think it's blonde-headed kids as toe-headed.
Toe-headed?
Toe-headed.
Why?
I don't know. Let me look it up quick, because there is actually, like, if a kid is toe-headed, it's like a color of hair, I think.
The Beastie Boys have an EP named Cookie Puss. And a compilation album called Same Old Bullshit.
Okay, toe-headed is to have very light blonde or untidy hair.
What's that got to do with toes?
Nothing. Well, it's toe as in TOW.
Oh, what's that got to do with that?
I don't know. It's okay. So it's
Jacob. It was the 60s.
A true towhead. A true towhead has. That sounds so weird. A true towhead has hair so light it's nearly white, which is why towheads are kids.
All right.
Toe in towhead comes from the dictionary referring to the fiber of flax, hemp, or jute prepared for spinning. Since flax is light in color, blonde people, especially children, are referred to as towheads or towheaded.
I was blonde-headed when I was a kid.
So you were a towhead.
I was a towhead, yeah. I was like super like platinum hair.
Really?
Yeah. Me to stop.
Now brown hair.
Yes, no doubt.
Sometimes me, no hair.
I've been a brunette most of my life.
Oh, I just figured that was a facade. You telling me you really are 2D, Triv? You really are 2D?
Yes, I am very 2D.
Yeah, gotcha. Anyways, so I don't know. I mean, the episode is Jacob. Help. I mean, you're the middleman in this apparently. This time you were literally the middleman. Like I'm the one that really doesn't like this episode. Trev's the one that really likes this episode. You're kind of like, yeah, it was fun.
It's not my favorite. If I never see it again, I'm not going to be upset. like I said earlier, I like the message, and I don't think it was performed badly, or there's nothing about it that stands out. It's just like, man, that was awful. But it is just kind of plotting. It just kind of plods along, and Then in the very, very, very end, something of consequence happens. But I mean, I don't know. I like the idea of it, and I like how some of it was executed, but it just seemed. I feel like if this was a 10-minute episode, it would have been better. It needed to be.
Yeah.
It seemed loose. It seemed like it needed to be tightened up.
Well, and look at the era too. Things moved in a different way, and the pace of this. And I know we've run into this with other episodes too, so it's probably not the case. But the episode does kind of match the kind of people that were in it. Like it was a little.
Well, yeah. There's that, and I understand. I don't need it to be like action packed or anything like that. I didn't even necessarily need more with the kids. I just the parts like of them talking. We needed that stuff, like when they were talking in their room and stuff about it. We needed to set up who these people were, these characters, and feel the way they do, and or it doesn't hit you like
That
it's
is
supposed to
true.
in the end. But I don't know. I guess there could have been a more entertaining. And then once again, I don't necessarily mean action or just you can have a conversation. You can have two people having conversations that can be more impactful and entertaining. This was literally just two guys talking in a room. And we've had that before. Look at the Purple Testament. That's two guys talking in a room for the vast majority of that episode, and it was excellent. It was amazing. So I can't put my finger on exactly what it was because I don't think anybody did a bad job or anything. I just think that this is one of those situations where the script was very much depending solely on the end. Like the end game, everything else was get what information we need out there so that the end can happen and people can go, oh, and yeah, you do that. And it's not bad. I don't think this is a bad episode, but it's not. It's Harold is a classic. I wouldn't do that. Like I said earlier, I don't see it as a classic. Nick, you sound like you kind of dislike the episode to a degree. I wouldn't say I dislike it, but I definitely don't think it's the best ever.
Well, I'm not saying that either. I think that it does what it needs to do. And I will agree that there are things that could have been tightened up. Like even if you had like all of those people in the one room, and they're trying to pull shenanigans on the nurse, there's a lot of stuff you could have done to show the magic, quote unquote, like working, and they're kind of like being all goofy and stuff as they're getting away beyond just a firecracker. There's definitely areas where it could have been tightened up, and it's
for the impact of the end that Nick was saying, the only thing I can think is if you gave more of the kids, if you will, I do think what happens is you get the movie, because that's what the movie did. It gave you more of the kids, and I think it's universally said that people don't care for that as much. What if they did like in true Twilight Zone fashion for a twist? They set this whole thing up to where they transformed into these children and all that, pretty much the same. But then we find out, they didn't really transform. It's more like in their head. They're still old, but they've kind of found their inner child, if you will. Like we see in the end, they're still old and they're just playing around and stuff like that. There was never a change. The change was more internal, less external. And then go out with something in the narration saying, to the effect of, you're only as old as you, not only as old as you feel, but, if you think you've lost your youth, it's down there somewhere inside you. You just need to find it.
Right.
You haven't lost it. You just misplaced it. I don't know, something along this. Rod was a lot better at that than me, but something along those lines. I think that may have made the ending a little bit more impactful at that point.
I can see that.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
to
Nick's
young point of the end seeming kind of abrupt.
Like I said, I feel like it was like 10 minutes missing out of it, but no, I mean, it's not the fact that, not to say like it's the worst episode ever. I get the point of like wanting to feel young, because you always want to feel young no matter how old you are. I mean, we as the age we're at, like we look back on like the nostalgic points of like you with your video game stuff, or me with watching like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or watching Ghostbusters, or watching whatever. And Triv, you have, I'm not exactly sure what your childhood was like, but you have, I'm sure, I'm not making it as a joke, but like I don't know what you grew up on. Maybe you grew up on like disturbing weird stuff or something like that, but
there was some.
But no, but I made a point, and this is just more of like humor, like these old people, they decide when Charles kind of gets them together, like they want to run, and I'm like, who the hell wants to run? It reminds me of that Anchorman joke, and yeah, he's like, we've learned about this thing called jogging. He's like, where you run for fun, and they're like, run for fun? What the hell's wrong with you? And I feel the same way. I'm like, who wants to run? And then they're old, they feel like they need to rest, and like, what's wrong with that? I want my rest. I want to sleep all the time. And then they talk about Charles
Nick is
Charles talks
Ben.
about the yeah. No, Charles talks about the fountain of youth or something like that, and I said, yeah, the fountain of youth. That's when you date someone younger than you. That's the fountain of youth. It's not in your mind.
That's why I married
Nah.
younger. So
That's awesome.
It's like you want to be Leonardo DiCaprio or dating a 29-year-old as a 50-year-old.
Be,
What was his name? The guy that ran Playboy.
Hugh Hefner.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you wanna
you
be
have,
him.
yeah.
I will also say, and this is 100% unrelated. It's sort of related. The director supervisor guy, he said that he was 43. It's like, no, he's 60 something. He's not that different than the rest of them.
True. I'm telling you, in the 1960s, 40-year-olds did look like they were 60s.
Yeah, you're not
the
wrong.
20s looked like they were 40. Like, no joke. Like, there was I've read about this, about how actors and actresses looked way older back in the day for some reason. I think it was like because of the dietary things that were going
But
on.
they aged
in, like,
better.
the war.
It was weird.
did.
It's like,
I mean, yeah.
nowadays people looked their age back then, but they aged more gracefully. Now people like look super young for like a long time, but then there's like this cutoff, and all of a sudden it's like, God, what happened to you? You like aged overnight, and you did it badly.
Yeah, it's especially sad with like women and stuff like that, because they feel like they need to stay young, so they do all this like plastic surgery and lip reduction or the Botox and stuff like that.
It's really sad.
If I do other
all
stuff
that
like
work,
devil
the
worship,
guys are just like, fuck it, I'm just going down in the blaze of glory. This is what you got to do.
I mean, you could be like Mickey Rourke or
oh
I don't
God,
know who else? Hugh Hefner, not Hugh Hefner, Hugh Grant.
Does Hugh Grant look bad?
Plastic? Did he get like plastic surgery or some shit?
Did he?
I don't know if I'm assuming so.
I haven't seen him really.
He looks he looks like something. Madonna.
There you go. Madonna's a perfect example.
I mean, to be fair, Mickey Rourke did get his face smashed in a lot, so yeah, that's why he looks like a weirdo.
He looks,
I don't know.
what
were we talking about?
Kindle.
I did also have the question. So at the very end, because there was a lot of the residents that went out and did kick the can and became kids and ran off into the woods to do their thing. Was Ben the only person of age left at that home? Like, there couldn't have been many left.
I'm sure Billy Bob and Sunnyvale and William the Teller and
Bubba Hotep,
Nick Carruthers, Baba Hotep. Yeah. Actually, let's talk about Bubba Hotep, man. That's a quality movie right there.
Oh, it's a great movie.
Was it George Washington is his name or something like that?
No, Kennedy.
John F. Kennedy.
John F. Kennedy.
Oh, that was what was his name? Who was in that movie? Not Bruce Campbell. The other one
is on the older black guy. Oh, what is his name? It's on the tip of my tongue. He plays John F. Kennedy. He's
Ozzie Davis.
Yeah.
Nice.
They colored my skin.
What a good movie from the director. Didn't he? The guy directed Phantasm, Beastmaster.
He had something to do with Phantasm.
Yeah, he created Phantasm, I think. Anyways, and directed the Beastmaster.
Great.
Yeah,
love that one.
Story career.
I think they're the same movie. Is that the right movie? Is that
Which
Kevin
one? Bubba
Sorbo
Hotep?
looking guy?
No.
Beastmaster. Not Kevin Sorbo. He looked like the guy who played MacGyver. Was it the guy who played MacGyver?
Mark Singer.
Yeah, Mark Singer. Is it Mark Singer?
Yeah.
Because MacGyver was Richard Allen something or another.
He looked like he always reminded me. I always thought it was the same guy when I was a kid. But yeah, he had them
Doesn't
ferrets.
Beastmaster have
one of the ferrets
Courtney
died
Cox
in
in it or some shit?
What one? No.
Oh, that was
which
Masters of the Universe.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I got my fantasy 80s fantasy movies mixed up.
You got your muscular 80s men mixed up.
Yeah. Next thing you're gonna tell me that He-Man wasn't real. Don't do it.
I loved Masters of the Universe.
He's real in another dimension.
I saw that in theaters. I loved it.
Oh, it's such a good movie.
Anyway.
All right. So to kind of close out this episode, Charles gets all the people together. They talk about how old they are, their bones are brittle, their backs are hurt, they can't run, but they want to. There's old gummy mouth with no teeth. So I want to play kick the can. It just all these old, like they're old people, and they decide they're gonna sneak out by lighting some firecrackers. And he tries to get Ben, but he's like, "Oh, you have bad lungs, and your bones will break, and used up by a lifetime." And
where did they get firecrackers?
Who the hell
I don't
knows?
know.
Someone
It's a
probably
prison
snuck them
prison
in.
for old people. What do you expect? They probably snuck it in through their anal cavities or something.
Well, and they got their own Nurse Ratchet going on too, so
I mean, maybe they have a loofah for that, Jacob.
I hope so.
They have a loofah for firecrackers because they like to use
The gray
firecrackers
loofah.
in places.
They need some more. They need a fiber.
Yeah,
brown one.
exactly.
It's the
No, anyways,
episode.
they sneak out, and Ben goes to tell the nurse like a scared
He's a
puss.
tattle tits.
His tattle tits, yeah, tattle tits, and they hear a bunch of kids as they walk out, and then Ben cries, and because he's about to be killed, and his grandson or nephew or is going to come in and avenge him and save New York City, and
I
yeah,
was gonna say that he falls into a time tube thing, and then he comes out and he meets his own great grandnephew.
I think you guys saw a different episode than me.
I mean, or he created a thing of rice, and or he went back and had sex with his great grandmother, and
Ooh,
had
ooh,
a son, and
ooh,
created
ooh,
Uncle Ben's rice,
ooh.
and was avenged by his nephew, who became the protector of the city of New York. So that's how the
The
episode ends.
Avengers.
Yeah, the Avengers.
Okay.
And then Cloud Atlas, they went to the future and they look like Asian people, and it was quite the end. Actually, you know what? The ending was quite interesting. I've never seen it go this way.
They did all
Ross
that in
Serling
a
was
minute
way-
and a half. Damn.
Yeah, Ross Serling was very progressive for his time, very ahead of his time.
You know,
He
he
thought
fell
about
into an
things that-
episode that didn't have a lot going on.
No. Actually, wasn't Spider-Man created in the 60s?
Yeah.
So it would make
Yeah.
sense. Yeah, so Ross Serling read the comic. He read the original Spider-Man. That's how he became rich. It was not through the Twilight Zone. It was through the first issue of Spider-Man.
Oh, good lord.
I've discovered. I've made the discovery, guys.
Wow,
It's
he
now
made
over.
the connection.
They did. No, they all become kids, and Ben tries to go with them because he realizes that he's an asshole and he should have gone with them to begin with. And they end up leaving into whatever dark yonder they go into, and he goes off to the porch to think about how much he hates these cans. And
Can we get a sequel in the 1980s Twilight Zone of what happened to these kids after? Like they end up on the street, like prostituting. Just
For
like
only 25 cents a day, you too can sponsor a kid that by playing
Yes,
kick
they
the
end up
can
with
turned
Sally
into
Struthers'
a
show.
Yeah, exactly.
I really, what are these kids gonna do? That's why the movie did make sense, because I think the movie references that, doesn't it?
Yeah. The one couple is like, oh, I'll have to grow up again and go through all that stuff, and I won't have my kids anymore. And yeah, they make very reasoned adult arguments in the original or in the movie. I don't know. It's the Twilight Zone. You can't think too deeply
It kind
about.
of takes away from it, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we joke, but you're not really supposed to. It's not about that. It's not about what the hell are these kids going to do in the world, real life wise. But it's about don't let being old. Don't die before it's your time.
Right.
Don't be dead man walking, more or less.
yeah, don't be Sean Penn. Don't be on the edges being saved by what's her face, Susan Sarandon.
Susan Sarandon, yeah.
Yeah.
Yarp.
We
Yeah.
saved
So I
ourselves
mean,
and our audience.
exactly. Yeah. I've dated myself a long time ago. No,
That's okay.
I
We
just
still love you.
I know. Yeah, I'm sure. I don't know. I mean, in the end, it's not the worst episode, but in the end, we'll have to figure out where to place this on the rankings list. But I don't know. What do you guys think? What else do you have to say about this episode? I don't really have much more to say because I've kind of said my piece, but I just found that they could have needed more. It needed more cowbell. That's how I look at it.
Well, everything needs more cowbell.
Exactly.
That's where I am with it. I mean, I didn't think it was a bad episode, but it's not the classic that a lot of people build it up to be. And it just good message, good performances, decent execution, but it just kind of drug in some spots. I mean,
Would you say that it falls into the same kind of pit as like Time Enough at Last? Like its reputation is
Yes,
built around more of an
absolutely.
image than what it actually has.
Yeah, unlike Eye of the Beholder or The Invaders or Monster Due on Maple Street, I think this is kind of overhyped, kind of like in that realm of
Well,
the Time Enough at Last or Nick of Time or
it spends a
know.
lot of time. Let's talk about the Invaders real quick compared to this. I mean, I know that's my favorite episode, but let's say this spends, and we have episodes that do this, and Time Enough at Last was one of them. It spends, I don't know, 85 to 90% of the episode setting up and doing exposition, or just setting things up for the thing at the end. And that's fine. The thing at the end is like, oh, okay. But then you look back and you're like, I mean, I like that ending, but I don't think I needed that 20 minutes of setup. But you do need it. You're like, you need this information. Like, you need all the information we got of these people before you can get to that end. The difference between how this does it and how something like the Invaders does it and makes that so great, or like the Eye of the Beholder, they do the same thing. They have all that set. Eye of the Beholder is just this lady talking to doctors and nurses and stuff. And it does the same thing. It gives you exposition, it's set up and all that, but it does it in such a more creative and interesting way. It doesn't just outright say it. It makes it more interesting. You're on a journey with these people. You learn things as they do, or you learn things in a more fluid, natural way. And then when the thing happens, you don't feel like your time was wasted. You don't feel like, you know what, I could have just gotten a synopsis of all this and understood what was going on. It's done in a really entertaining way. And I don't think episodes like this do that. They just spend all the time getting information to you so that you can get that hit in the end, instead of getting information to you in an entertaining way so that when you get that hit at the end, the whole thing feels good.
I think what makes those two episodes interesting is the unknown entity. Like, you're being led to believe this, and this, with the, what is this robot or what are these people? And then the ending hits you kind of like with like a huge ton of bricks, whether it be they're from outer space or whether
those two had
hell of pig people.
Hell of an ending.
Yeah, this is yeah, this is just like a straightforward like.
But they could have done it
in the
more, end. I don't know, and I'm not proposing how, but I always believe that you can do setup and things like that in a more interesting way to keep you more engaged. I didn't feel very engaged for a lot of this episode. I was there and I was listening, and I wasn't like hating it, but I was just like, all right, old people, they hate that they're old. They've lost all their youth, if you will, and their spirit. And now this guy wants to gain it back. Okay. I needed 20 minutes to tell me that. But you do. I mean, it's okay that they took 20 minutes to tell you that. It's just the way that they tell you. I think they need to do it like those episodes and do it in a more entertaining, engaging way.
Yeah, I agree. True.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. And the idea of, honestly, the idea of like them actually still being their age, but feeling like kids would have been probably a more, not believable, but more like less supernaturally, more like, you know what, you can do this. It's not just becoming a child, it's being a child at heart, kind of a deal.
Because that's part of being a child. It's not just the physicality side of it. It's the mindset that you think anything in the world is possible because you don't know about the horrors and the real life. You don't know about real life. You don't know how things really go down, and responsibilities and all that. You're a child. It's like you're a sponge. Everything is just like awe and wonder. Mm-hmm. But if you go back to being like, 8 years old, but still your brain in there, you're still going to think the same way. You're still going to be like, oh, well, this isn't sensible to do this. We shouldn't do that. And, that's not being a child. That's just being a child's body. So, yeah, I agree. I think it would have been neat if they kind of reverted mentally that way as well. Which I guess we don't ever really, did we ever get in this version? No, the movie does, but in this version, did we get anything that said that they didn't do that?
Well, they just kind of run off into the night, and that's kind of where it ends.
Yeah, so we didn't really, I mean, they may have. Yeah. Maybe they did revert 100% to childhood.
Yeah, it just didn't feel like there was the payoff was there. It just felt like it was like, once again, there was 10 minutes on the other end of that spectrum, and Rod Serling's like, and the CBS is like, nope, you need to end it here. It's like the ambiguity, I think is what the word is.
See, I don't mind the ambiguity of it though. I don't like. I'm okay with that. Like, I don't think,
but like Inception, the ambiguity is interesting. Here, it's just like,
I know what you're saying. Ambiguity is a tough one because you can.
Is there another 18 kids just running around the city now as vagrants and
ambiguous newspapers? Endings have to leave you with questions that you can answer in your head in a multitude of ways.
True.
Like you have to be able to be like, oh, it could be this, or maybe it's that, or this, or that. It gets you to thinking. Ambiguity it's a tough. If you end a movie in an ambiguous way,
And
that's
then
good.
Gay
Yeah.
duo.
Then it leaves people talking on forums for years to come. If you leave it, like you mentioned Inception, that was a really good one. If you leave an ending with just a confusing, there's ambiguity, and then there's just not telling you shit. So I think that there is a difference. I think ambiguity leaves hints. It leaves hints. It may not give you an answer, and those hints might, but it gives you hints as to what may have been, maybe not. Or there's just don't tell you shit. And ambiguity, I think, always leaves some type of hint behind.
No, that's fair. I will say, and this is, I'm not trying to be pedantic by any stretch, but I do think one of the things that is both awesome and terrible about the Twilight Zone is the story leaves off the moment Rod Serling comes back on and kind of talks you through the, lesson learned or whatever came next or whatever. But it's something you can talk on, and we've obviously, taken a critical eye towards a lot of it and such. But stories like this, I think you kind of have to take them where they are. It ends in a child's perception of what an ending is to some extent. And again, I agree that like that thought went through my head too of, well, these kiddos, they can't go back to their parents because they're probably in their 80s, all that stuff. I get it. I guess, but the alternative to that is the ending that we got on the movie, which honestly, like it makes more sense. It's more practical, but it is a lot less of the Twilight Zone flair that we come to expect. Yeah.
They're explaining too much because you can't explain too much. It's like if Back to the Future explained beat by beat how the DeLorean works. It just don't. Some things you just don't need to explain. I don't need to know. I need to know the basics. I know you go 88 miles an hour and this thing goes back in time. I don't need to know exactly how the flux capacitor works. Because if you start doing that, you get into this hole, and it digs and it tears everything apart.
This is like if Ralphie in the Christmas Story, his old man told him to go look in the corner, and it just ended. Like as he pulled out the package, like what's in the package? What's in the box?
But don't you kind of know don't you kind of know what's in the package? Like it is kind of assumed that like,
Do you though? Like, I mean, like, or he just doesn't pull out the box and it just
never
zooms up to like
great scene with the rah 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 rah.
No, you're. But I mean, I get the
China
point.
Christmas duck.
I wouldn't have gotten to see the duck's head either. So
yeah. So yeah, I don't know. It'd be like if Bill and Ted saw the phone booth and decided, should we go in? And that's when the movie ended. That's how I feel about this episode.
But you already know the story. Like if Bill and Ted are heading into the phone booth, you know that they're going to go back in.
They're just like they look at each other discussing where they're going to go in, and that's when the episode ends.
You mean at the very end? But like
no, at the beginning.
No, that wouldn't make any sense. That's
well, that's what this episode doesn't make any sense.
No, it's not. It makes sense. It makes sense for what it is. Just because you have a freaking bias and you're so curmudgeonly because you're 87 and a half years old and you tell kids to get off your lawn.
Why does my age keep going up? First it was like 84, and then it was like 86. Now it's 8. By the end of the episode, I'm going to be 105.
Well, hey, more power to you. You look great for 169,000 years old.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm proud of you.
I think it made sense within the confines of the story. I just wish the execution had been a little bit different. Once again, not terrible execution, but not great execution either. It just kind of that's nice.
I have to phrase this in the mind of a famous detective. That just don't make no damn sense.
Neither does your face, but we still keep you around because we love you.
No, I'm honestly joking. Like I'm trying to make like funny jokes about like Christmas Story. Yeah, I am actually. I don't know. It's fine. The episode's fine.
The thing that they don't bring up in this episode is cans can be very dangerous, and he'll shoot your eye out with the can.
All I know is Ben hates these cans.
He'll kick your eye out.
Yeah.
Now Ben has to write 27-cent checks to everyone because he hates them cans.
Yeah. It happens.
All right. So anything else before we head into the closing narration?
Negative, Ghostwriter.
All right. Jacob, do the closing narration. Do it.
Sunnyvale Rest, a dying place for ancient people who have forgotten the fragile magic of youth. A dying place for those who have forgotten that childhood, maturity, and old age are curiously intertwined and not separate. A dying place for those who have grown too stiff in their thinking to visit the Twilight Zone.
That's what she said.
They're all too stiff.
Yep.
Yeah, bow, bow.
It's too stiff, Captain.
Bow. I can't get any blood.
I'm a dildo. I'm a dildo, not a pool man.
It is stiffy.
I'm a dildo.
Oh, yeah.
I am an ass man. Jesus. So with that said, that's season 3, episode 21, Kick the Can.
Wow.
As we've talked about, no, without anything else, we talked about Kick the Can.
Yep.
Because we kicked the can on this episode. Thank God.
Taking them cans, yeah.
Yep.
That's right. Oh yeah. All right, let's do it. Let's go into the last segment of this podcast, which of course is the Twilight Zone ranking list, the greatest ranking list that Rod Serling would have enjoyed because he loves ranking lists, as we all do. All right. Number 86.
No, number 3.
Number 3.
Number 3.
Number 2.
Okay. Yay!
No,
Thanks for joining in.
no.
Make sure to check out Jake's
Three.
channel. He's got lots of good stuff. Make sure to show some love to Movie Emporium. I am Trivial Theater. We'll see you next week.
No, negative. I do not agree. I do not accept that.
You heard it here, folks. He said it.
Negative ass
27.
writer.
I mean, Jake, Perchance to Dream is at number 27, and it hasn't moved in a few weeks.
That's why I said 27.
I like it.
Oh,
Okay.
God.
Ladies and gents, thank you so much for tuning in. I am Trivial Theater. The guy above me is Jake from
In all seriousness,
Below me is Nick from Movie
Below
Emporium.
me.
Make sure to show them.
Blow me, Nick.
Is this better than Most Unusual Camera? I'll start there.
Fuck.
I don't think so.
Damn it.
I mean,
Fine.
No, I
it's
don't.
not.
No,
You son of a bitch.
Triv, what do you honestly think? No.
Okay, if you put
We're allowed to
if
have
we-
discussions on
if
this
we-
podcast,
If
Triv.
if we go back and
That's because there's 2 men on this podcast that don't agree to discuss.
Shush your face, you silly boy. Go kick a can down the
No,
street.
seriously, like we'll start where would you put
Okay,
it? You're the one that liked it the most.
No. But here's the thing: Most Unusual Camera is like in my top 10. So that in mind, I appreciate what this episode does. I think it's got a lot of good. It connected a lot with me. But if you set these 2 episodes down next to me and said pick one that you want to watch, I will always choose Most Unusual Camera. So I can't, in good faith, say that this should go above Most Unusual Camera, at least from an enjoyability perspective. Now, from a perspective of like what it says, what it brings to the table, yes, it deserves to be higher. But I don't know how you balance those 2 thoughts.
Is it better than Time Enough at Last?
Where is that? 22. Yes, but no. I don't know. I'm a terrible decision maker when it comes to these things.
So I started where you said a minute ago with Most Unusual Camera,
Mhm.
and that's 31. Perchance to Dream is 27. So I was like, that's just a few spots. But unfortunately, I would rather, like Triv said, if I was like given a choice, this or that episode, which at the end of the day, that's what matters. Penny for Your Thoughts, Hitchhiker's kind of on the same level. I think Hitchhiker's better than this. 100 Yards Over the Rim, Most Unusual. I would watch all those before this one. That's not to say that I don't think this one had a good message and I thought it was sweet and all that, but at the end of the day, what do I want to watch? What do I want to spend my 24 minutes on? I'd rather watch any of those. So
I would even say put it below The Hunt, because The Hunt did a nice job of like talking about similar issues, but in a more entertaining way.
yeah, and yeah, I was thinking that as well. I hadn't gone below Most Unusual Camera yet, but
You would below Most Unusual Camera? My goodness.
absolutely blow the shit out of it. But
Nick, we can't hear you.
I said it's
What?
an unusual camera, so no, I'm sorry. You guys are getting old. So you're old, so you need to become young again so you can hear what I'm saying.
that's what it
Do
is.
you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
Not normally.
Showdown with Rance. I think it was better than Rance McGrew.
Yeah.
There's
Is it
nothing
better than
against
Game
that
of Pool?
episode. Yeah, I know you guys like that episode a lot, and I don't have anything against that episode. I think this one's kind of on the same level as a Game of Pool. It's like
Or the man in the bottle?
not narratively, but just like
I'm a
how I feel
man
about
in
it
the
at the end, where I'm just kind
bottle.
of like, yeah, it's fine.
Is it better than the Howling Man?
Do we really want to go that high with it though?
I'm just asking you questions.
Do I think it's better than
Me, I would have much
Halloween?
lower, but like you have to look at it from
Yeah.
a
no,
two
it's fair.
against. This is basically a 2 against 1 perspective now. So
You're
So
the
you gotta
one saying it
understand-
should be higher.
With me, with the
no, I'm
Howling
asking
Man,
you guys questions. Like
Oh,
I
okay.
want to go beyond like the most unusual camera. Like we're starting to put episodes all the season 3 episodes in like the same area.
Yeah, that's fair.
I just want to make sure where we put it is right before.
I like Howling Man as a whole better, I guess. But Howling Man, my issue with Howling Man is the not the very end, but the part where he fights like the devil thing. I just had a real hard time getting over that, or not fight when it shows up there at the end. I know it was the '60s, but like that whole effect, I was just like, oh my god.
All right,
Did
here's
the short stick emasculate you?
And that, yeah, the whole the short stick. I think
Well,
I
here's-
probably like that episode. I don't know. There's just a lot happened. I liked how that episode ended, but it just had, I don't know.
Here's a question. What about, since One for the Angels is kind of a similar type of theme, what about around that?
Well, that was the one.
That was the one where the guy was a peddler, and he fought, or he basically tricked death,
Oh yeah.
and
The
then he
old
takes
guy.
the little kid.
Yeah. That is a similar sentiment. Kind of like just kind of sweet in the end. You know,
I think
I'd
it's better
probably-
executed, but still.
I'd probably rather watch that one. It had a bit more. I don't know. It just I was a bit more engaged up to the end. I think the end of this one is probably a little bit more impactful, but overall, the whole episode was a little bit more engaging.
Is it a
on One
case
for the
where we should put, and I like this episode, but I'm not going to sit here and fight for it to be like in the top 10 by any stretch. Is it something where, for you guys, do you want to take it lower? Like more into the 40s?
Where would you put it, Nick, if you were just doing this yourself?
Probably prime mover area.
So
Around there. That's where I would put it. But like
43.
once again,
43.
if you guys like, it's a 2 against 1. I'm not as a joke. I'm not joking, but it's like a 2 against 1 scenario. So like we have to kind of come to a consensus of like, even if I don't want it to be higher, this is no joke. This is like a perchance a dream situation where it really, if you guys put it higher, I'm not necessarily going to enjoy that, but I don't really, if you guys want it there, it's, it's a majority vote at that point. So
Fair.
I can't, like I said, I'm just not a huge fan of this episode. I never have been. And that kind of, even from a critical standpoint, I just feel like it has so many issues with this pacing and storytelling, and it doesn't live up to what I want out of the Twilight Zone.
That's fair.
Yeah, we can meet half between you guys and just go 27.
Yes,
I'll do
that's
And here, honestly, though, if we go halfway, and I know that we already have a lot of season 3 in the 30s, but this does kind of fall into that realm, really. Like, it's something to look for in future episodes, but for this, I do think it sort of falls into that realm.
I mean, we could put it above like Long Distance Call, below 2, or Showdown with Rance McGrew, or
I would say go. I mean, I would say kind of in that like 32 to 37.
36.
Here's where I would lie: right below Most Unusual Camera, right above The Hunt.
So 30.
Because The Hunt, but I mean, I like The Hunt more. But like I said, it's kind of in that.
Well, there's no reason why it can't go below The Hunt. Just make it the new 33, and that's kind of a nice middle ground for those, considering where we were talking.
Yeah, not 27.
Sorry.
No, I mean, so 33.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Sure.
Not 220. Apparently, like I'm writing. All right. So later on, when Jacob's like, "Why is Kick the Can so low?" We'll know why.
You said you're tired. Your kid kept you up all night tonight before. Oh shit.
I think we're all getting tired at this point.
Well, and it's that we've kind of exhausted what it is to talk about this episode, because there's good messages, but they're very to the point. So
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I think that'll work. So with that said, new number 33 is Kick the Can. Number 1, still Eye of the Beholder. Number 86, The Trouble with Templeton. In that note, the next episode is season 3, episode 22, A Piano in the House, which I don't recognize at all. Directed by David Gordon Green, written by Earle Hamner Jr.
What? David Gordon Green.
Oh, this is David Green. Sorry. Stars Barry Morris, Joan Hackett, Don Durant, and Morel Landers. So we'll look forward to that. See if I remember when I see it when we come back next week. Triv, Jacob, we're both all tired. We're all ready to get out of here. It's late. I got to edit a video for noon tomorrow, so we'll leave it at that. But Jacob, I'm gonna let you go first. You have content. You're posting content right now, which is a miracle. No, not really, but you have content. Where's that at?
Retro Jake XY on YouTube, where I am currently doing a documentary series on the Nintendo 64 5-part series. So check that out. If you want to wait till the end to see the whole thing, there will be a video that has the whole thing. It's about a little bit shy of an hour-long video. But this week, as of this release, the 5th and final chapter will be coming out this coming Friday. And as of this recording, the 4th and not final chapter will be coming out this Friday.
Yes, if you want that, we'll send you a Little Orphan Annie decoder pin.
Yay.
Yeah.
Drink your Ovaltine?
Son of a bitch.
Crappy commercial?
No, in all honesty, go watch his stuff because he puts a lot of work into it. It's amazing.
It's
amazingly awesome.
I'm trying to build that.
And subscribe. Exactly.
Need to subscribe.
Triv, you have content as well. You post content.
Recently, not really. No, I hoping to get a video out here sooner than later. Life takes stuff. Anyway, you can find my current backlog of catalog.
Backlog of catalog. Good job.
You can find my backlog, which there are a lot of fun videos there at Trivial
Your
Theater.
backlog. They're sticks.
Yes, they are. Well, they're good for kindling and not much else. But
sticks.
Exactly. But I should have a video coming out here in the next couple weeks, focused on a classic of schlocky cinema called Blood Theater. So definitely check that out. Yeah, that's about it.
Check out her Meet the Feebles.
Oh, that is good. Well, my current video, which is coming up on a month, is with the ever talented and quite lovely Nick from Movie Emporium. Hey Nick, do you know that guy?
No, he's an asshole.
He's not an asshole, but yeah, it's super fun.
He's an asshole.
Super fun. Meet the Feebles collab was a really fun time and well worth a watch, especially if you want to see a cow and a cockroach get it on.
Yes, good times had by all.
Absolutely.
Exactly. With that said, I am at Movie Emporium. That's where I hold my content as of this discussion of this episode. I posted last something of the Demeter, last voyage of the Demeter, and then yeah, coming up, yeah, something like that. And I'll have my new after party episode up in the next day, and so look forward to that. But without further ado, that's it. We're heading out. And so for myself, Triv, and Jacob, we'll see you guys next time on the Twilight Zone. Peace out, motherfuckers. There's audio feeds as well. Peace out, motherfuckers.
Audio feeds are good.
And where's the receiver? Damn it! Why is the recording button disappeared?
Do you realize the back of your chair, Jake, kind of looks like a nose, like a really big nose?
He looks like he's like a Muppet, like a Gonzo or something like that.
Yeah, there you go.
A weird Twilight Zone Muppet.
Oh, that's awesome. Or it's a bird, like a bird beak.
And his mic is the mouth.
Oh, there you go. I like it.
Except he has this weird thing coming out of his mouth.